Good morning, everyone. We are Group 3, and our issue is educating female youth in developing countries. With sustainability and improving the quality of life across the globe as the main function of modern planners, educating women is a necessary and efficient method to accomplish this goal. The problem can be solved with planning and public involvement, the same way we'll deal with a natural disaster or war. Because this is a natural disaster, this is a war that we need to fight and win as soon as possible. Because cultures and women across the world have such limited access to brilliant and successful opportunities that some of them have even no idea exist. Our solution will change the stigma of girls in education and celebrate our new world of instant information technology and social equity. Our solution is using a first day of school festival. Now, only the affluent children in developing countries have the time to leave their chores at home in order to spend days or even weeks away out of school. Connecting with the local cultures and governments, and then throwing a site-specific celebration of learning can illuminate the benefits of an education to all peoples in the community. Making women the central focus of the celebration will also challenge male-dominated educated societies and make the issue discussed among the population, which is the first step for ending the stigma about women being responsible for strictly home chores. It starts a conversation.
A festival celebrating the start of schooling for children is necessary in some underdeveloped countries as it would greatly inspire the general public to seek out an education field like. Educating the young generations inside a country consistently and well is essential for the further development of the country as a whole in the future. Countries such as South Sudan or Afghanistan, where the literacy rates are 27 and 28%, respectively, struggle to develop at a rapid rate due to their inability of a majority of their citizens to be able to read. Continuing to accelerate this number is necessary. Being illiterate does not define that a person is not capable of being successful, but it greatly decreases the opportunities they have, which can make an impact on their community. These numbers are very extreme, especially for girls. As in South Sudan, 73% of girls never attend any kind of school. These issues are most prevalent in Africa, as only one country outside Africa has a population that under 50% is literate, which is Afghanistan. Assisting these countries to the extent of which they can afford to send their children to school, as opposed to relying on them for work around the community, will help their communities to further develop faster over time. Implementing a rite of passage that celebrates the actions of children to push them towards education would inspire more kids and families to get these kids educated. Pushing for a more informed society and one that is diverse with gender is necessary for the development and success of that country.
Our team is looking at addressing and ending the cultural stigma behind not educating girls in developing countries. We also believe that education should be available and encouraged for all children, not just for guys. In sub-Saharan Africa, 33.3 million girls of primary and lower secondary school age are out of school. This number rises to 52.2 million when taking into account girls of upper secondary school age. This amount of girls is not acceptable for what should be a universal right. Access to equal education, regardless of gender, needs to begin in these countries in order to contribute to the overall health and wealth of a nation. But even this is a problem in some areas due to lack of funding for education. Many governments do not place enough emphasis on education and do not place the necessary funds in the right places. In Turkey, they spent 5.8% of their budget on education in 2018. In this same year, 72.9% of education expenditure was financed by public sources. In addition, South Sudan's government spends just 2.6% of its total budget on education. Education must become a larger priority in the government if real change is to occur in addressing the gender inequality relating to education. The infographic shows what would happen if education became an important factor. For example, students will earn 25% more per year of secondary school. We believe that the government should work to separate education from being a male-dominated role to something everyone has access to. The separation of this is not going to be a quick change, but rather a gradual process that over time lifts families out of poverty and allows nations to grow and become more developed. The transition that needs to take place are the mindsets around a girl's worth in her life. Numerous statistics and real-world examples have proven that when given the opportunity to succeed and be educated, girls are capable of achieving great accomplishments rather than just household purposes. Per the United Nations, we know educating girls means a world of more educated women who tend to be healthier, earn more income, have fewer children, and provide better healthcare and education to their own children, all of which can lift households out of poverty. Taking this step allows countries to further that transition from developing to developed. The incorporation of a festival promoting education to all children could have dramatic effects on other aspects, including climate change, birth rates, mortality rates, poverty levels, and life expectancy. The goal of this incorporation would be to celebrate the right that is education rather than limiting it.
The government should promote this festival in cooperation with organizations such as the United Nations, CAMFED, and etc. Gaining international support not only helps with funding and motivation from peer influence, but also garners support from countries who have already developed and reaped the benefits of providing equal access to education, regardless of gender. Additionally, if these governments see the emphasis being placed on education for more developed countries, they might be influenced to dedicate more of their budget to education. Also, they could realize the importance of education in response to the factors mentioned earlier, such as climate change and poverty levels.
As mentioned by my peers, one of the many current barriers to education across the world still discriminates against girls. That is why we think this is something that we must prioritize and address, especially in underdeveloped countries and developing countries who are facing this issue. Also, as part of the sustainable development goals, gender equality is something that we need to achieve as society. Today, there are thousands of governmental and non-governmental organizations designed to provide education to girls and gender equality across the world. Thus, due to the gender inequality in education and lack of access to proper education, we decided to create a festival to provide access to education for girls with a quality and safe approach. It also aims to celebrate and empower women and directly support girls to get the education they need to change their life, ensure their futures, and promote girls' education from a young age. The festival strives to educate and give others knowledge about the problem, as well as to provide some educational opportunities to women. Since we focus on equality, inclusion, and educating girls, our festival stakeholders who must pass through this rite of passage are mostly girls. However, we also believe that this festival should be attended by activists and leaders who may inform others about the problem, as well as educational institutes, religious leaders, teachers, innovators, and more importantly, parents or family members in order to culminate this gender inequality in education. Since one of our primary goals is to provide diversity, we don't have a specific race, nationality, class, or ethnicity to focus on. This festival can be done in any country without any restriction and anyone can attend.
In terms of the form, a festival to celebrate the first day of school for the majority, if not all of the developing countries' youth, would be held in a form that recognizes achievements of the benefits that education has to offer. It could be held the weekend before school starts to garner support and excitement for classes to begin. The festival would work to encourage students to go to school and highlight the importance of education, especially for women. Often, education is viewed in a very negative aspect in more developed countries, more so like a chore, where it should be advertised as an exciting and important step in one's life to becoming a contributing member to society. In order for a rite of passage such as this to be consistent in developing countries, there must be a larger sense of community involvement, whether that be through the government or schools. Keeping parents motivated and being able to entertain a large audience to garner excitement would help the festival function. In addition, other places around the world have had women-centered festivals, such as the Women of the World Festival in London. Events such as these could be utilized in developing countries, showing young girls women who look like them that are able to become great things by receiving an education. They could serve as a role model for girls across these countries, proving the benefits of education and encouraging them to see something similar within themselves by receiving one. And some processes that could be taken to encourage a successful passage would be to ensure cooperation with outside resources such as organizations like the United Nations, as mentioned earlier. These organizations already have extensive work in developing countries that could lead to further development in terms of equal access to education. Overall, one of the main reasons that developing countries are still developing is because of this barrier to education that about half of its population is receiving. By educating girls, not only does it do benefits in terms of poverty, health, and climate change take place, but it also is one step closer to making that transition from a developing country to a developed one. Thank you.